Hi, I'm Hazel. It's Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I have been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, we got, of course, a brand new Dragonflight Alpha build, along with a number of blue posts and updates of a controversial nature. First of all, the Dragonflying Changes and Soar Nerfs. Basically, what's happened is in the most recent alpha build, they've changed exactly how sharp you can turn while you are dragon riding or using Soar. There was a note somewhere in the original build about how turning wasn't finished yet, so I think this is something that has always been planned. But as of now, compared to last week and the week previous in alpha, you can no longer turn your dragon quite on a dime. It's a wider turn radius, and it feels more like you are flying a large creature with large wings. After having my hands on it for a couple of days, I personally kind of like it. I think that it adds to the thing I like most about dragon riding is this fantasy that you are really on a dragon. Like, that's what all of these momentum and energy mechanics are about, is reinforcing that idea that you're genuinely flying. And that's, to me, I think at least, what makes it feel that much more fun. So not being able to hit like 180 pivot on a dime. Yes, it's not quite as maneuverable, but it does make a lot of sense for such a large and powerful creature. We're not helicopters anymore, and I don't think that this change is something that people are going to be having issue with once the game actually comes out. It's just a little bit of a jarring shock from the first iteration of Dragonflight we had in a previous build. That brings me to the Soar Nerfs. There's a post here where Blizzard details what they have done to Soar, which is the Drakthir racial ability, or it's at least one of them, and why. So Soar is, for reference, a 5-minute cooldown that gives you the very basic version of dragon riding. But unlike dragon riding, which is currently restricted to only dragon riding mounts and only in the Dragon Isles, Soar can be used basically anywhere you can fly. They are bringing the maximum speed of Soar from 930% down to 640%. And for reference, 410% is the max flight mount speed. So soaring Drakthir will still be going much faster than flying mounts, just not like insanely faster than flying mounts. They talk at length in this post about their different reasons for doing this, and note that this nerf is not applied to dragon riding drakes, so in the Dragon Isles on your dragon, you're still going to be able to go stupid fast. I can see where they're coming from with this. It's true that in its first version, Soar was just a much better utility than basically anything else any other race has as a racial. And I think that it's smart that they're thinking long-term like this, because while a lot of us would love for them to bring dragon riding mechanics out into the rest of the world, and it's possible they do that, we don't know for sure if they're going to do that. And if they don't, then Soar becomes something that is so much better than any other way of getting around that it's difficult to justify not being a Drakthir on any character that you want to be like navigating through old zones on, or even new zones potentially in new expansions. So I think it's a good forward-looking change, and I think that now is the time to making these changes, both the turning thing and then also the soar speed, before people have had a chance to actually use it and fall in love with it on their live characters that they feel a more connected sense of ownership for. It's much better that we have these kinds of considerations taken while the game is still in alpha, so that you don't feel quite so much like you're having something beautiful wrested from your grasp. I wouldn't have minded going hyperspeed, but I understand why they did it. Moving right along, our second controversial headline of the week is that the Slime Cat mount, well, first of all, it's revealed, and then second of all, it will not be available in LFR. So let's recap. Here is the Slime Cat mount. We finally have a model for it. This is what it's going to look like. This was one of the options that did not win the community mount choosing poll way back when. I believe it came in second place. And this mount is going to be available in Shadowlands Season 4 as a limited time acquisition for players that complete all 3 of the raids while they have the Fated Affix active. Now, up until this week, all of the achievement text and all of the data mine strings just referred to completing Fated raids on any difficulty, which led many people to assume that any difficulty would also naturally include LFR. We've now had a blue post confirmation that that is not the intention, and that the Slime Cat will not be obtainable in LFR, and that if you want this kitty cat, you are going to need to complete those raids on a minimum of normal difficulty. This is something that I don't think I agree with. It's entirely possible that a groundswell community movement like the Friendship Moose thing happens, and while that's beautiful and magical, I think there's probably plenty of people that don't have a regular raid team and also don't want to rely on the charity of others in order to get such an interesting and limited availability mount. And maybe some of those people don't want to open themselves up to like the emotional black box that is pugging a raid. If it was up to me, I would say just make it available in LFR. LFR is harder than normal anyways, if you ask me. Every time I've done LFR, it's been a much more exciting adventure with a lot more trials and tribulations than any experience on normal, including pugging. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely going for it anyways. I require the cat. And I'm not sure if my regular raiding guild is actually coming back for season 4. I think some of them may be on break until Dragonflight, so my plan is to wade into the pug trenches. But I don't really understand the rationale for keeping it out of LFR. We already have the Carsonized Xerath Steed as the ahead of the curve mount that people are going to be trying to get before Dragonflight, and that one's heroic only. I feel like that kind of fills the niche of requiring organized content in order to get, and also being like an interesting model that's limited time. I don't know that we needed another one, but that's just me. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Other things in the new alpha build this week, we had a new dungeon to test out called the Ruby Pools, and I think this one is going to be a fast favorite of at least me and probably others because it's short. It is only 3 bosses. It goes by much more quickly than the other dungeons, and it is visually stunning. It is beautiful in there. Those are like my 2 favorite things about any dungeon is it pretty and is it quick? Because I know I'm not the only one that probably favors shorter Mythic Plus runs because the really long ones make my head start to feel like it's swelling. That might be a medical issue. They've also released Paladin and Mage talents in this Dragonflight build, so both of those classes are now available on the Wowhead Dragonflight talent calculator, so if you're a Paladin or Mage and you want to click around and play with the first iteration of your Dragonflight talents, I will link that calculator down below. Another little mini tidbit of Dragonflight news, the Barbershop is going to be free in Dragonflight. Their services will be free of charge, which is very nice because there are a bajillion things you can do to Drakthir in particular. The Barbershop has really been expanded over the years with more and more, not just hairstyles, but lots of face options, lots of hair options, being able to change your character's body type. And it's nice that it's not a gold sink anymore. That's a hard thing to complain about. I already spent enough gold on transmog. I would love, if we're just wishing for things, I would love for them to add a Barbershop mount. We haven't had like a cool utility mount since the Brutosaur, I think. And I think that adding a Barbershop mount would be a pretty low impact, pretty safe way of adding like a cool flavor utility mount that's not going to break the game or feel mandatory. And I would pay like lots and lots and lots and lots of gold for it. So food for the universe. Other things, we are in our final days of Shadowlands Season 3 with his upcoming reset on August 2nd and 8th, 30U. We are going to get Shadowlands Season 4 underway with the Fated raids kicking in, a brand new Keystone Master mount to chase for all of us doing Mythic Plus. I will be excited to kind of get in there and heal some more keys on my Hpriest, and then have that to kind of compare against my mental data of the Evoker healing I've been doing on Alpha, so I can figure out what I want to do because it's so hard. It feels like some of my favorite things about Hpriest are just there, but like cooler on Evoker. And then some of the things that I feel very limited by on Hpriest are like there on Evoker. So as an example, Hpriest has Life Grip. I love Life Grip. I always try to do good with it, but I occasionally get people killed. And then Evoker gets Fly with Me, which is like Life Grip, but you're going with them. Hpriest gets Divine Hymn, which is of course a raid cooldown that's going to do a bunch of healing, and Evoker can spec into Emerald Communion, which is kind of like Divine Hymn except that it heals you first. And then if you talent into another thing, it can actually raise your maximum health as soon as you start Emerald Communioning, which makes it a wonderful defensive cooldown because the last thing that you want to do is die mid-Divine Hymn. I often feel kind of squishy on my Hpriest, as though like errant mechanics that everybody else can survive are just like the end of me, and that I don't have a whole lot of mitigation cooldowns to manage incoming damage, whereas an Evoker has Obsidian Scales they can spec into for like a mitigation cooldown. They also can take Renewing Blaze, which heals them for damage taken for a couple of seconds. They also are wearing mail armor as opposed to cloth armor, which in theory should make them a tiny bit more durable. And then my Hpriest feels sometimes very slow. Sometimes we're doing a raid run back, and I'm plodding along with my little angelic feather or body and soul or whatever, and everybody else except for the poor paladins and death knights, it feels like, are charging ahead of me. And then my Evoker not only has hover on a really short cooldown, and you can spec into making it even better, but you can even use Fly with Me to pick up one of those, poor people on their feet in the back and then zoom them ahead forward. It's so fun. It's like patching over all of the things that have ever irritated me about Hpriest. But it does have a 25-yard range. And the 25-yard range, you're gonna feel it. This is like a definite niche of the Evoker healer, that if someone is far away from you and you want to heal them, you gotta get over there because you cannot reach very far. And that's definitely different. So that's the one thing I think that I would have to, I don't know, I'm just talking out loud. This is not the right video for this. And then in my life this week, I am getting a haircut this week. So we can all bid farewell to the, well, I was gonna call it a muskrat, but that's not very nice. It feels like time for a change, so I found a stylist that specializes in curly hair, which is a thing, and we're gonna do something. We'll find out. And then questions for this week. Red Renegade wants to know, what are the things that are being removed from the Uldaman dungeon change? I don't want to miss out on farming something. So, Uldaman is getting revamped with Dragonflight. There is a new Dragonflight dungeon that is kind of a reworked Uldaman, but it is a completely separate instance from original Uldaman. It has its own entrance, and I went in on Alpha and checked, and the old Uldaman is still there, intact as is. Nothing is changing or being removed there, so you are safe. This time, it is a valid question. It's something that has happened before, but you can still get into the old one, and you should be totally fine to continue farming lots of stuff from there in the future. The Papal Fez is like expensive enough. And Lyriath wants to know, are gathering professions going to have special things as well, like the other professions? Do the otters fly? I just can't picture that. I want my sea turtle to fly. Gathering does get some special stuff. They have some special gathering specific profession stats that are going to let you do things like see herbs from farther away. That's, I believe, perception. It's also going to get its own gathering gear. I'm looking forward to having my own special like herbalism spade, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if the gathering professions are going to get the same kind of profession spec treatment that the other professions did. I really hope they do, but I haven't seen that for sure because they're not in an alpha just yet. I'll keep you posted. And then otters and sea turtles both sadly do not fly, but keep that energy. I like the enthusiasm. And then Kayla wants to know, what is your curly girl routine? My daughter has curls and I was cursed with straight hair, so I have absolutely no idea what to do with them. So first of all, I will plug Mains by Mel. She's a YouTuber and she's kind of where I've learned all of the stuff from. So all of the detailed information is on that YouTube channel. I'll link it below, but I will share with you my 5 commandments of curly hair. Commandment number 1, thou shalt not brush it dry. This makes it break and it makes it get very puffy and very big, and it's almost never good. I never brush my hair dry. I will detangle it very carefully in the shower while it's wet. I start with the ends and then work my way up with my fingers to detangle, but people also use tools sometimes. The second commandment is that I sleep with a silk-lined cap. Do not apply the curls to a rough, scratchy pillowcase. If the cap is too warm because it's hot out lately, then there's also inexpensive like silk satin pillowcases that you can use. And the idea is that they're not going to be so abrasive to curly hair, because once you break a dry curl apart, nothing's putting it back together until it gets wet again. So the silk or satin pillowcases or caps help preserve your hair overnight because you don't want to do your wash day every day. The third commandment is I always dry my hair very gently with a t-shirt. I just use old t-shirts. There is also special towels, but I just use old t-shirts. It works great. I very gently squeeze water out of my hair. I'm not rubbing, and I'm certainly not using like a terry cloth towel. That helps a lot, actually, is the t-shirt thing. The fourth thing is that it needs products, specifically like a moisturizing agent and then some kind of hold product, for me at least at a minimum. I work a moisturizing agent through my hair while it's wet, and then after my curls form, I just scrunch a gel into them to hold them together while they're drying. The fourth commandment is thou shalt not touch your curls while they are wet once you formed them. Leave them alone until they dry. Like, you can move them, but do not be touching, fussing with them, playing with them until they are dry, because it's just gonna make you frizzy. So you can use a hairdryer with a diffuser attachment, or you can air dry them, but you really don't want to get your fingers in there until it is like dry, because once you've done damage, you're not really putting it back until your next wash day. Speaking of wash days, I don't do that every day. I wash my hair usually one or two times in a week. I go between 3 to 5, maybe 7 days if I'm really lazy, between washing my hair. That doesn't mean I don't shower. I do shower, but I wear a shower cap to keep my hair dry if I'm showering but not specifically washing my hair. So those are my basics. I would say curly hair is a journey, and everybody's individual hair texture is very specific to them, so there's no kind of one-size-fits-all solution, but it's fun to try things and to practice and to get better at making your hair a way that makes you feel good at the end of the day. And that's been the week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions you would like answered in a news video, please leave them in the comments and include the word question to help me find them. I appreciate you guys. Stop by a stream sometime to say hi if you like, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.